Welcome everyone to the Sip and Chat. We have me and my guest, Miss Nexie. And if you're new to this channel, make sure you hit the like, you subscribe.
Hello, Miss Marlene. Can you hear me, Miss Marlene?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Just making sure,
Hey,
just making sure.
awesome. Welcome everybody to the Sip and Chat where me and my co-host, Miss Nexa, where we sip and we chat about very important
Hello,
topics.
everyone.
Yes, welcome Miss Nexie to the show.
Hello, Miss Marlene. Hi, everyone.
Yes, hi to everybody. How's everyone doing? Miss Nexie, this is going to be a good topic. Did you see the title today? Hello.
Yes, I'm here, Miss Marlene. I
Oh,
couldn't
I
hear
was.
you, but I
Oh,
can hear
I
you
was.
now.
Oh, I was saying. Did you see the title today? We're talking about mama's boys and daddy's girls.
Oh, yes, I did. Yes, I did. And I did a long pause on that one. And I started going back. Never mind that. How are you today?
Oh, I'm doing great. I'm doing great. I'm ready to get to this topic. So let's start, Miss Nexie. Okay, first let's talk about, this. Well, I will say, there is a special bond between a parent and a child, the dynamic between a mother and her son, and also the dynamic between a daughter and her father. But the issue that we get into is when it's inappropriate, when it's to where a parent will coddle a child so much that they will be no good to anybody else. That's the issue that
Exactly.
I have.
Yeah, and first and foremost, what are you sipping on, Missy?
Oh, yes, I forgot. This is the Simmer Chat. Hello. Thank you for bringing me back to reality. Today, I'm just sipping on, my usual. I'm having a frothy root beer with lots of ice in it.
Ooh,
Yeah, a frothy root beer. What are you having, Miss Nexty?
my usual, Miss Marlene, just plain old delicious coffee.
Ooh, coffee. I love that.
Yeah,
I love
plain
that.
old delicious.
So, what's everybody in the audience? What are you guys sipping on? Make sure you get your drink and you join in on this conversation, okay?
And make sure you put down what you're sipping on, because we really want to know that we're not the only alcoholics in this place.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I see we have a few people in here. Hi, Eric. Hi, Killer. Killer says he's having coffee.
Oh, nice. I love coffee.
Okay. Miss Nexie, you may need to talk because somebody is in here saying, uh, no habla inglés.
Oh, Dios mío. Well, I hope you habla español, because that's I know.
Okay, now we know that's not true, Miss Nexie.
Well, Miss Marlene, speaking
Mhm.
of our topic, there is a thin line, I think, between a healthy bond and an unhealthy bond between a parent and child. And I
Mhm.
think that that's what we're going to, kind of discover here. The people that we know, the bonds that we have with our parents, and how, we can turn a perfectly normal, healthy child into a and I'm going to say it, and hopefully I'm not stepping on anyone's toes, on a useless human.
Well, well, Miss Nixie, I don't think that that's not really stepping on toes. And I will say it's not stepping on toes because a lot of people, they only want to hear what they want to hear. They don't want to hear the truth. And there are a lot of people who are mama's boys and daddy's girls. Don't get me wrong, it's nothing wrong with having a wonderful relationship, being very close to your mother or being close to your father. But when it gets to be like it's your mother or your father before certain individuals in your life, that's where you have to draw a line.
Exactly. And this is, I have children, you have children. We, at least on my case, I love my children. I love, adore my children. I, try to raise them as best as I could. We have very close bonds between, each other. But there is a point where a son, gets married. And at that point, they sever the closeness they have with their mothers. I'm not saying they don't talk to their moms, they're not attentive, they're not. I'm saying is that their focus goes to their wives. I'm talking about a son. And I'm only saying this because my son got married, and his focus right now is his wife. That doesn't mean he doesn't talk to me, or he doesn't come and sometimes spends the morning with me. It's here talking to me when we have a cup of coffee, or if we go somewhere. He you know helps me get in and out of a car sometimes, or things like that. I'm not saying he doesn't do that. What I'm saying is that the attention from me has minimized to go into, to his wife, which is the norm. That's what is supposed to happen. But
Yeah.
I've seen, Miss Marlene, and I'm sorry I'm monopolizing this whole thing myself, but I have witnessed, and I have lived around people that the sons are married, and the mom is the one with all of the opinions. The mom is the one that has the last say. The mom is the one that takes all of the attention, and the wife is just there. And I
Mhm.
don't think that's right.
Miss Nexie, I've seen it so many times where it's one of those things like it's smothering, to be honest. It's and I think that they do have a show called that, called
Trust me,
Smothering.
I saw it, and I'm traumatized. I'm traumatized.
I'm
Very
traumatized by
traumatized.
it too. Yeah. Isn't it crazy? It's
It
it's crazy
is.
how
It
people will
is.
feel like, is this normal or what?
As old as I am, that felt very abnormal to me. and, and I come from a time in where, children were very close to the parents, very respectful, very attentive, very, you know, around the parents a lot. And I thought that show was abnormal. But I have seen it to the point in where I have a very good friend of mine. She's not a best friend; she's just a very good friend of mine. I have been, and again, I'm Hispanic, right? So we have a lot of you and I have a lot of similarities when it comes to our parents. When it comes to our families, our values, our traditions, and things like that. We have a lot of Caribbean in us.
Yes.
And I come from that background to where we honor our father and our mother. I am from a religion that always says that. But when it comes to sometimes overdoing it, I think again, that's why I say there's a thin line. I have a friend, a very good friend, who is, I'm not going to say the background because, again, I don't want to step on anyone's toes or generalize. But this person is married to another good friend of ours. And the saddest thing there is that, instead of, let's say there is a situation with a child, I'm gonna give you this scenario. Recently, they had a problem with one of their teenage daughters in college, and something happened, and she got, thrown out of college because of an incident, and you can only imagine how big it was. So the husband and wife go pick her up and then come back, and the grandmother, his mother, decides what's going to happen. His mother is the one that makes the decision of what's going to happen from now on. So my friend's arms are tight because the husband does not listen to her. Any problem, any argument, anything that they have going on, he goes straight to his mom.
Mm.
He doesn't discuss it with my friend. No, no, no. Yeah, there's a problem between our child and the school and whatever, but let me ask mom and see what she thinks. And we're gonna go with my mom says this. Um, there was a vacation planned not long ago after the pandemic, and that he canceled because mom said that she didn't feel it was the right time to go, and she didn't feel safe, so he had to cancel their vacation because of that.
Wow, wow. There's so much to unpack, unload, really get into the thoughts like why. First I have to say is from the beginning of that relationship, and that's something that myself and Miss Nexie, this is our belief system. We're not trying to force that, but like you said, like that's how I grew up, and how I was raised. We were raised to honor our parents and all of those things. But I remember when my mother and my father told me, like, okay, you get in a relationship. The issues that are in your relationship is between you and the person you're with. And
Mm-hmm.
and it definitely has to go back to the parents. It's how you are parented. And if you have a parent that blurs the lines, because I've seen it on both sides. I've seen mothers that turn their sons into like the man of the house, like a husband, and I've also seen a father who turns their daughter into like the mother of the house, running the house and doing all those things, and neither one is good,
Mm-hmm.
because you have to allow a child to be a child. You have, the mother needs to be a mother, the father needs to be a father. And it's just, I've seen so many things to where it's not good. And I wanted to read this, which I found online, which I thought it was really good. There's a special bond between a parent and a child. The dynamic between a mother and a son is, in a word, deep. To borrow a colloquial expression from my native tongue, the same is true of the bond between a father and his daughter. The point here is not to draw any value comparisons between the parent child relationships of a father or a mother. And that would suggest that one has a greater impact or of a higher importance than the other. That would be foolish and irresponsible misuse of an opportunity to encourage meaningful thoughts for consideration. But the most important thing is that the relationship between a parent and a child in any pairing is of a great benefit to the development of a child of a particular interest is the dynamic between a father and a daughter and a mother and a son. That's what's important, the dynamic between the two of them. And when that dynamic is blurred, when the lines are blurred, or when there's not like, okay, you get to be 18 years old and the mother is still hand washing her son's underwear in her, in her hand, and the father,
Mm-hmm.
making sandwiches for the daughter to bring to school still, and she's not in high school, she's in college, or things like that. It's getting out of control.
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying, is the unhealthiness of the whole thing.
Yeah, and that's the reason for this discussion, because it's important to talk about this. And I've seen it so much on social media. You'll see some things that people will make it seem like it's something cute that a mother and the son are always together. I'm in agreement with that. That's nice. They have a close relationship. But my issue comes to be when the mother will tell the son how to parent their own child, or tell the
Mm.
son how their wife or girlfriend should be, and vice versa, with a father telling a daughter how she should be in the relationship and how to parent her kids. Either one, it's not good. There has to be some lines, some some boundaries put out, like, okay, at this point, I understand you're an adult now, you have to make your own decisions, and that has to be said at some point.
Exactly, and that's what I'm telling you. You're the mother of still young children, like a young child. I'm the mother of adults. You know what I mean? So for me, is there is a point where and it gets reminded, it gets stamped on your head when you try to enroll them in college, and they tell you, no, 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 no. Now it's her or his job to do this. You can't do it for them, right? And that kind of brings you back to the point. Okay, they are adults now. They're not in high school, they're already in college, and now it's their journey. You can be there to listen when they need you. You can be there to help them, with money, or a little advice if you're asked. But it is another thing to be involved in everything they do when it comes to their personal life. When it comes to relationships, when it comes to, like you said, rearing their children, there is a fine line that you have not to cross as a parent. And that is, because your child is your child, right? They're going to come to you for everything, but it's your job to say, honey, now you're an adult, you're a grown up, and that's your child. The discussion should be with your wife or with your husband, not with me. Now, if both of them come to you, husband and wife, and say, hey, mom, this is what's going on, what should we do? Or do you have any advice? Then you give it to both of them together, husband and wife. You know what I mean? Like, you're not taking it upon yourself to go there and move into their house and help them educate their children, because I've seen that happen too.
Yes.
You, it's a very fine line. You have to be very careful not to cross it, because this is their family. It's supposed to be between the two of them, once they're in a relationship. But I have been witness to mothers still going into sons' bedrooms, and doing their laundry and picking up their room, and organizing or going through certain drawers, and you know what I mean? And even when they have someone at home, I've seen them go inside, not even thinking of, I'm interrupting. This is they're with somebody, so I shouldn't go inside. I've seen so many things happen that, I've always had that awareness that yes, I am their parent, right? I'm their mother, but that's it. They're grown-ups. It has nothing to do. I don't have to help them or interfere in their day-to-day lives, because they're grown-ups now.
And Miss Nexie, I think that it comes down to, as a parent, not being ready to pull away,
To
and
let go.
yeah, to have your own life. And there are a lot of mothers and fathers around the world that they've been your world for such a long time, and one day it's like they don't need me anymore, and
Mm.
it can be frustrating. It's sad. I'm not in that category yet, but I can't imagine like having to let go like that yet. But I know one thing is for sure: if you have raised your children in the right way, you
Hmm.
know when the time comes, whenever they need you, they're going to come to you. You don't have to worry.
And they do it, and that's the whole point, Miss Marlene, is that when you're raising children, you're raising them so they can become responsible, so they can become good human beings, right? That's the whole point of you giving them the education that you do, making sure that they got rules and regulations at home, make sure that they're walking a straight line. It's because you want to make sure that when they get older, they are thought to be independent enough to be able to deal with the world around them. Now, I have seen some mothers who you know are walking, the boys have come with their spouses, and they're actually, the mom and the son are holding hands, and the spouse is walking right next to them. And that to me,
Weird.
yeah, oh no, no, I ran the other way before I said something, because they're friends of mine, they're relatives of mine. And to me, is, I get it, my son is here, he wants to hold my hand, but he is here with his spouse. So I'm just gonna wait and see if I can have moments with my son when we can talk and go out for a coffee by ourselves, and whatever, but not do that in front. If anything, I probably will grab my son's hand and put it in his wife's hand and say, "No, honey, this is your job now. I'm not your problem. This is your problem now."
Yeah. Yes.
Because I've seen that, Miss Marlene. I've seen them attending to the mother so much and ignoring completely the wife.
Mm. And you know what, Miss Nexie? It all goes, like I said, it goes back to the parents, because I've seen the mother who tries to come in and tell the son how he should be, how his house should be, how his kids should be, how the wife, oh, my son doesn't like that to eat, and all kinds of things.
Mm.
It's like there's certain things like, come on, moms. We have to do better than that. I do understand there are certain things that, yes, you want to talk to your kids about it, but let them come to you and say what they want, and what, not you stepping in and trying to take control. I feel like that's the problem with a mama's boy.
Yeah, exactly. And again, I get it that you have this strong bond with them, but it's up to you to tell them, yes, we're gonna be bonded for life, but now you are in a relationship, or now with a girlfriend, or now you're with a wife. Now you have to concentrate on your wife. And I feel that because we are the mother or the father, the eldest in the relationship, we should be the ones to say that you're not doing right by your wife. I appreciate my mother-in-law very much, because she never got involved, and she lived with us for a very long time, but my mother-in-law always kept her distance. She will only comment it on something that we asked, again, if we asked her for her opinion. So what do you think about this? How do you think I should handle this? And she will give her 2 cents. But if not asked, my mother-in-law, regardless of the discussion that was going on, whether it was heated or not heated, whether it concerned her or not, my mother-in-law didn't give any input unless she was asked, directly asked. She will just go into her room, close the door, and let us handle the situation. And I think that as parents of children that are grown, that is the right thing to do. You cannot get involved. But I've seen, mothers that are, the children, the couple is arguing, and they're in between them, or telling them, "Don't talk to my son like that." I never talk to my son like that. I understand why you're doing that. My son doesn't do that. My son doesn't like that, as you said before. And they get involved so much in a relationship that they damage that relationship, because the wife probably looks at the son saying, "Are you kidding me? Are you gonna let this happen?" Or, it's your job to put a stop to that, not mine, because that's your mother. Or if you're a girl, your boyfriend or husband can say, "Hey, it's your job to stop your dad from coming in and telling me how to be a husband, how to, or you always with your dad appointments and this and that." it's his job to say, no, honey, stop. Now you have to concentrate on your family. But
Yeah.
I've seen some selfish people that don't do that. And I'm going to call them selfish, Miss Marlene. I'm sorry if I do that. But
No,
I am going to
I'm
call
not
them
sorry.
selfish. My friend, and it's so sad, Miss Marlene, because my friend has to, always wait until the mother-in-law is okay with something before she can say anything. Give me a second, Miss Marlene.
Okay. And that's one of the things about it is the boundaries has to be set. The boundary has to be set with not only the parent but also with the children. The son has to tell the mother, you know I'm in a relationship, and this they have to give some boundaries to their parents, as vice versa, as well as the parent should be sending their child back to the person they're in a relationship, or tell them to take care of their relationship and do what they need to do for the relationship to make it work. And if that doesn't happen, that's why that there's so many problems in the relationship, when there are not boundaries that are enforced. Like, if, okay, say for example, it's a mama's boy and a child, something's happening, and the mother steps in. For me, there's always going to be some as mutual respect, and the mother does something and the son doesn't like it. Maybe she overstepped and did something that maybe the wife didn't like, or maybe something the children didn't like, or they didn't like, whatever. And that's when you have to draw a boundary, and say, Mom, I appreciate you, I love you very much, but this is my family, and this is the way
Mm-hmm.
we do things. So it has to be on both sides, and there has to be a mutual respect. And sometimes it's where it's not normal, because some people, it's like a mental illness, that they're like obsessive over their children, or the person is obsessive over their mother, or they're obsessive over their father.
Again, that can be, how can I put it? I always feel, Miss Marlene, that when parents are so into being overbearing and having to have everything to do with their children, even when they're married or in a relationship, and they want them to be calling them all the time, and they want to know what is going on. I feel, for me, it feels like they're not they're kind of like passing them like a receipt, like passing the buck, that I gave you life, right? I gave you life. I gave my life to you. And now that, you're grown and you're older, now you kind of have to repay me for that. And the way you can do it is by, doing all these little things. It's like I feel like they want gratitude to be extended a lifetime.
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
I have seen that, Miss Nexie, and I don't know, like, because we're both Caribbean, I really can't say it how it is in an American household, but I see a lot of times in Caribbean households where it's like, I'm your mother, or I'm
Yeah,
your
I gave you
father.
life.
Yeah, and I gave you life. I brought you in this world, and you have to do what I say.
Yeah, you're so ungrateful. I gave you life, this is how I've suffered all of my life, blah 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 blah. And the tear ducts open up, and then it's all this, and then everybody looks at you like you're an alien because you are making your mother or your father upset and cry. And I
Mm,
think, it's a generational thing. My father didn't do that with us. My father never guilted us, because I feel that it's like a guilt thing. They guilt their children, or they make them so dependent on them because they fix everything, that they make them so useless sometimes as adults, because they're so over dependent on the parent. They don't allow them to mature. They don't allow them to grow up. They don't allow them to see that there is more than just mom and dad. There's a world out there of people that can become as important as mom and dad. There's
Yeah,
nothing wrong with that. But in our culture, nothing should be more important than mom and
yeah.
dad. I don't know if you grew up with that.
Yeah,
I don't know, Miss Willie.
I get exactly where you're coming from, Miss Nexie. I want to get go into right now something that I think is strange. Why is it that somebody can be a daddy's girl and it's okay, but if somebody's a mama's boy, it's not? Do you think it's what is it called? I try to think of the word, but it's like
Double
one.
standard, like
Yeah, it's a double standard that it's okay for a girl to be a daddy's girl, but if a guy is a mama's boy, it's not.
yeah, they're criticized a lot because, oh my God, let go of your mama's apron string or whatever. I get that, but I feel that they make the boy or the guy feel ashamed that he loves his mother, and that he cares. I feel that that's all it is, because I've seen daddy's girls that depend on their dad even to pay their car note, their
Mhm.
insurance, that they don't know that daddy does everything for them. And I've seen dads going to their husbands or the boyfriends and saying, I'm her father, I'm always going to be here for her, so you're just the now guy or whatever, but I'm always
Mm,
going to be her daddy. I've seen things like that happen. And I look at these people and I'm like, what? But yeah, the criticism is very much on a guy if he likes his mother very much.
yeah, and the
Double
informed
standard.
yeah, it is a double standard. The Informed Voice podcast says it needs to be fair. Why would a man feel ashamed? And I've seen it in many communities, but especially I would say with minorities, it tends to be like, oh, you're with your mama, and like and they're clowned for that and made fun of when it's a normal thing. I don't think there should be a shame. Shame should be attached to a boy that loves his mother, and also there shouldn't be shame attached to a girl loving her father. But the weirdness is when a person can't make any decisions on their own. For me, that's when I don't care whether it's a boy or whether it's a girl. If a child cannot function independent from their parent, that's a problem for me. That goes back to they were not parented well.
Yeah, the unhealthiness of. And again, we're not saying it is not good. We're just saying, it is not normal to be so attached to a parent. Like, again, I go back to my children. Like, I love my children. Half of the time now that they're grown ups, that they're adults, that they have their lives, half of the time I don't know what they're doing. I find out through so and so. Oh yeah, they were here last Friday. Oh, no wonder they were home late. Or no wonder, when I called they didn't answer. But there's times that I don't know. Sometimes when they show me pictures of, oh, we went here or we were there, or they bring me something from where they were. But I've seen mothers get upset if they're not taken to where they were that Friday or that Saturday, or upset that they weren't told that they were going there. And I've
No,
seen them getting way bent out of shape because, they weren't told. And it's weird to me because I'm like, well, they're not, uh, they're grown up now. Like, they don't need to tell you every single thing that they're doing.
do you think that some parents just don't get it that they're not babies? Or do you think it's because here's my theory. I think that parents that act like this, that are like the smothering type of parent, helicopter parent like this, and really being like overly, over their children, I think it's because that the child most of the time does not make good decisions. Do you think it's that, or you think it's because the parent wants to be that way?
It's a parent of adult children. Um, and I can call myself a so-called normal person, right? Because, I'm very, very normal on my thinking, just not as my kids, because then they'll say something different. But that's not the point. The point here is, as a mother of grown adults, it is a very hard to see your child, you know, battling the world, right? You want to overprotect. You don't want them to go through any hardship. You just want to keep them in a little bubble. And it's very hard to let that go. It's very hard. As a no, so-called normal person or a healthy brain of a normal human mom, I had to fight myself and say, no, 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 they're grown up. Don't go help them with that. If they need your help, they're going to come to you. It hurt me. It worried me. And I wanted to just overprotect. But I had to tell myself, no, 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 they have to figure it out on their own. Now they're adults. I feel that a lot of people that continuously seek that attention, that want to keep the reins on, on the kids, and they want to know everything. I feel that yes, it's not mental illness. I think it's some sort of trauma that they had, fear of the unknown, or maybe of loneliness, something like that. I feel that it has to do with the fact that I brought them into this world. I want nothing to happen to them, and they're probably fearful to let go. And I'm telling you, as a mother, that is very hard to do. It is a very, very hard thing to do.
Yeah, I can't imagine that because I'm not there yet. But I also think that some parents that are that way, it's because they personally, as a child, were abandoned by their said parent. So when
Hmm.
they get to be older, they're like, my kid is never gonna want for anything. They're always gonna have me. I'm always gonna make myself available, and I think they go to an opposite extreme.
Yeah, and you know that the some people don't like to lose control. I feel that sometimes that is what it's all about. That they want to have that control over that person. Like I'm special. I'm supposed to be the most important woman in your life when it comes to a son. And they want to have all of that control. Letting go of that control it becomes very hard for people like that, that are very a controlling type of person. So sometimes I feel that it is because they don't want to lose that. They don't want to let go of that control. They don't want to lose it. They don't want to let go to somebody else. But I was talking to someone a couple of weeks ago, and he told me something very, very wise. We were talking for a while, and he said, that he has two daughters, and he said, he goes, the what did he say? The most, he said, I think that the stupidest thing we can do as parents, as we're bringing children into this world, says, I think that the most stupid thing we can say is, I will never, ever, ever let my children go through what I went through. I'm going to raise them so much better than I was raised. I'm going to give them everything I didn't have. He says that is the stupidest thing, a person can say, because we are who we are because of our circumstances. If we give a child everything they need, everything they want, we don't allow them to learn to value, appreciate, and everything, then, we're just throwing useless, careless, uncaring people out to the world. They're not going to want for anything, so they're not going to appreciate anything. And we are who we are because of what we went through.
You,
And I was
that
like, huh.
that's a that's a different thought. I never thought about it that way. Because I know I personally have said that I want them to have what I didn't have. but at the same time, mine is balanced. I'm also going to talk about what I went through and how I hustled and what I did and how I got my education. So it's going to not just be, I'm giving this to you, I'm going to teach a lesson, I'm going to show
Mhm.
them about responsibility and accountability and that they need to go and get things for themselves. But I think when I talk about, I want them to have what I didn't have, mine is not a financial thing. Mine would be making sure they understand that they're loved. Mine would be affection and things like that. So, not from a financial mean in having everything, but I mean knowing that they have love, they have support, that they're safe, and they can talk to me about anything. For me, that was something when I say it, I wish they had everything. I think it depends on how you grew up.
Mhm.
But for me, that was like giving, for me, giving a child that, for me, is everything, making them know that they're safe and that they can have their own
Yeah,
life. And I will always
yeah.
support them.
Exactly. But saying, everything that I never had, it's pretty much saying, I'm gonna be there with them 24/7. I'm not gonna, right? So maybe some of the people that have this bonds with their children where they don't want to let go is probably like you said, they had those trauma, abandonment, or lack of attention from the parents, lack of showing feelings from their parents, so they want to overdo it with their children. The problem with that is that they don't want to detach afterwards, which is why that shows mothering scared the bejesus out of me.
Yeah. Oh, I got a super chat. I got a super chat.
Oh, very nice,
Woo!
yay.
Thank you so much, The Informed Podcast. You know what we have to do? We have to bring out the panda.
Bring
Panda
me my
time.
panda. I truly love that panda.
I love the panda, right?
Yeah,
So
and Miss Marlene, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I
oh,
just
go
thought
ahead.
about something. Um, y- I had a neighbor, and where the wife had passed away, and he was raising his three daughters by himself. We had a neighbor like back home, and I remember when the girls got married, he didn't want them to go out. He built them houses, like, because he had a lot of acreage. So he gave a house to each one of his daughters, but they got married and they had to live in the same, places, same household, pretty much like same acreage as he did. So it was probably like a 15-acre farm. It was huge. And each of them had a house, and their husbands came over and they all lived in the same house because that's what he wanted them to do, to live around him. I thought that was kind of like selfish. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I thought that was weird. And I was just a teenager when, the girls were married and everything, but they all lived around the dad.
Hmm.
It wasn't
I
like I give you this money so that you can buy whatever you want or live whatever. No, it was like I'm gonna give you this, but you have to stay here, kind of.
hmm. I don't know, Miss Nixon. Maybe I'm not thinking about it that way. For me, I feel like that's like, well, all the family will be together. I don't know. I guess it depends on the dynamic of the family. But I, now that you're saying that, it does sound kind of
Right? Kind of weird, right, Miss Marlene?
yeah.
Kind of like a control thing.
At first I was like, oh, that's super sweet. But then I'm like, wait a minute, that's kind of creepy.
Exactly. But I didn't, in the beginning, I thought it was weird. My sister was like, oh, that is so sweet. I wish I had, when I my kids are older, I wish I had that money, that kind of money, so I could keep all of my kids around. But then I started thinking, like, no, that's weird because as a mother, to my children, I'm gonna be like, okay, I have this, property. Uh, do you want me to make your house here, or do you want me to give you the equivalent to that, and you can build whatever, or you can buy whatever you want? They
Mhm.
didn't have that option. He built the houses and they came over to live there with their families. Like, it was
Oh
weird. It was just weird.
wow. Oh wow. They didn't even have an option.
I mean, are you gonna go get free housing in there, or are you gonna go struggle? I don't know what happened, but the thing is, it was weird to me, and I was just, a teenager back then. I was just a child, but it felt weird to me
Mm.
that they
Yeah.
were all living there.
Yeah. Yeah. Miss Miss Nixie, I was like, at first I was like, oh, because in where my family comes from in
They do
Jamaica,
that.
my family does that. And I was like, wait a minute, Miss Nixie, wait a minute. Was I controlled? Wait a minute. What's happening here?
That is exactly what I'm saying. Like, I get it. You wanted to, but to me, it felt weird. Like, okay, wait a minute. I get it. It's nice. There's your house, but I don't know. So when I saw that show, my Miss Marlene, I only saw like a couple of episodes. I got so scared, and I was like, nope, I cannot watch this show. This is too much for me. And I was thinking about this person, this guy, because I'm like, I mean, it's nice that they had each had a house, but there the whole time was kind of weird.
I don't know. Miss Nixie, you're making me rethink my whole life.
I'm sorry, Miss Marlene, you was
I was like,
control
oh,
woman.
oh my God, we have a family plot. Now I'm thinking my grandfather was a
A control freak. He wanted all of us to be buried in there.
I was like, oh my God, I always thought this was super sweet. Now you
Sorry. No, and again, it's how you define the normalcy. Like, I know that for kids too, it is hard to let go, of your parents sometimes, because the world is scary, but, encouraging them and giving them, that push that they need to, hey, go invest in, your life out there. Go do your thing. Enjoy. If you ever need me, I'm here, in the
Mhm.
home where you left. That
Yeah.
this is always going to be your home, but go out there and explore the world. Like, don't let me stop you. I think that, again, going back to my friend, the one that we're having this conversation about, is that she cannot even plan a vacation because it has to be run by mom.
Mm. Now
Yeah,
that's a major problem.
exactly. But the husband is dating him. She knew that he was very close to her. She knew that they were very, very involved in each other's lives. I mean, to the point in where her first sleep over there, the lady showed up at like 7 in the morning and literally burst into the room to say good morning to her son as they were both in bed. So she knew that this is the relationship they had, and he didn't see anything wrong when she told him, why would she just come in to your room, like, not knock on the door or
Wow.
anything, just burst in here and seeing me here, she didn't even care. She still wanted to hug you and give you a kiss. It's like, dude, I'm in bed and he's an adult. Like, you know what I mean? She knew
Wow.
this, but she didn't expect it to still continue on after they got married. And I'm like, if he was doing this as you guys were dating, you knew he was not going to stop. And that's creating a lot of problems between them because he cannot make a decision, Miss Marlene, not one, without the input of his mother.
Mm. Yeah, that see now, Miss Nexie, I'm all for, and I love when there is a man and he loves his mother. I love that. I feel like that's like, I think that's very sexy. A guy
Hmm.
that loves
It's
his
beautiful.
mother. Well, yeah, it's beautiful. A guy that takes care of his mom, his sisters, but very protective of them and all those things. I love that. But when it gets to be like they can't make a decision on what they want for lunch or where they want to go because they got to check with mom first. Now we have a problem.
Oh, yeah. Dinner time when they go out to dinner is the same thing. Let me ask mom where she wants to go. Oh, I don't like that place. Okay, mom doesn't like it, so let's pick something else. And she lives with them. That's the worst thing.
Oh no, Miss Nexie, it just got worse.
Exactly. So, because it's part of their family that the boy, the sons take care of their mom in this particular family. So it's him and two sisters. So he is the one that takes care of his mom. But the thing here is, I get that. I get that, he's going to take care of his mama. And I don't, and by no means I blame, because I love the fact that I was able to have the relationship I have with my mother in law. But my husband was the type of husband, and she was the type of mother in law that allowed us to live our own life. Even though she was in our home, she never got involved in any decisions we made unless we asked for her opinion. We're
Exactly.
thinking about this color. What do you think? Is this color right for this wall? Or do you think it'll be too dark? If we will ask, what do you think about, we're thinking of buying this for so and so, what do you think? If we will ask her, she will give us her opinion. I think she's too young, or, that's a beautiful thing for her. But other than that, she will not get involved. But with this lady is different, because everything has to be passed by her. And again, if they're having, like, a family night at home watching movies, it's, let's ask mom if she wants to watch that one.
Oh wow, now it's a problem. Hold on one second. I want to acknowledge Realist One came in here a few minutes
Hey,
ago.
realist.
Welcome, Realist in the building. Happy Thursday.
Hola.
Yeah. So, Miss Nexie, this is the part where it gets a little bit, sticky. It's a little
Icky.
uncomfortable.
A little
Um,
icky.
a little icky, okay. And that's when we talk about the daddy's girls, because
Mm.
everybody who knows, and I used to say it proudly, like a badge of honor. Yes, I'm a daddy's girl. But even this has made me rethink, Miss Nexie, that there are some things, Miss Nexie, I'm gonna be honest, that I did when I was an adult that was not normal. You know, yeah, yeah, I'm gonna acknowledge that because I've grown and I've matured. But yeah, I used to be like, well, let me ask my dad first, and they'd be like, what?
Let me ask my dad if I can go out with you.
Let me see what my dad thinks, and I'll get back to you.
Yeah. When do you want to go again? Saturday, right? Let me think if it's okay. If there's nothing else we're doing together. No, I
But
was my dad's
oh,
favorite
go ahead,
child,
Miss
but
Nexie.
no, I said I was my dad's favorite child. So I understand you. Go on, tell me.
Yeah, Miss Nexie, there's nobody like us. Okay, there's nobody like, especially the last children. Come on, they were
Yes,
waiting for us.
exactly. They only live to have us. That's the whole purpose. I get you, Miss Marlene.
Yeah, you get me. See,
They weren't
I
happy
know,
until we were born. They didn't know happiness until we showed up. I get you. I get you.
I know. That's what I told my dad. I was like, "What?
Yeah, I
What were
told my
you
dad
guys
that too.
doing?" I used to tell my
Yeah.
dad that. What did you do before me? It's like, come on.
Yeah. I said, I know you didn't know how to love until I came along. So what did you give to this other kids?
Yeah, I know.
My dad
It's
would, no, my
sad.
dad would be like, okay, this is my cross. I'm paying everything I did as a child with this one.
Oh yeah, that's what my mom said. Oh yeah, mom talked about. Oh, my last one, she gave me a run for the money. Oh yeah.
But
But
It's healthy. It wasn't unhealthy, or was it unhealthy on your part?
Mine was very toxic. Very, mine was like I was like be like in a relationship. I don't care. I don't need no. My daddy will. Oh, my daddy gonna fix you. My daddy's gonna get you all the way together. I don't care.
Yeah, behave like that. I'll let my dad fix you for me. He knows what I like.
So I can,
No,
Miss Nexie, I can admit it. Yeah, I was that toxic daddy's girl for real. I had to check everything for my daddy until one day it was like, Marlene, what are you doing? It's like, okay, I'll give people to like 22, 23. But when it got to be like, hello, ma'am, you're 29 and you're still talking about daddy. Okay. Yeah.
there's something wrong here. I was a
Yeah.
very, I've always been a very independent child. So I was my dad's favorite because, we like similar movies. We could have, a nice conversation together. We pretty much like almost the same things. But I was very independent. So I was never the type that I got to check with my dad first,
See,
but
I
I will tell my dad, you got to check with me. If you're going to go somewhere, check if I want to go with you first.
no,
Don't
no,
make
Miss
decisions
Nexie.
without asking me first, Dad.
Miss Nexie, I was the one that I had to say to my dad, to check with me before him and my mother do everything. And so my siblings also had to check with me, and they would be like, "Look at her."
No, I did that. I will say, you know what? If you're gonna do anything on Saturday, ask me first, Dad, to see if I can go with you. My dad will be like, "What?
Yeah,
Yes,
I used
Mom."
I used to tell my mother, I was like, remember, he's my dad first, okay? So yeah,
Yes.
I know all the stuff you talk about. That's your man and stuff, but that doesn't. I was like, that doesn't compute in my mind because all I can see is that's my daddy. Okay,
Yeah, Mom,
so
you have to check with me first before you make a date with my dad. No, for me, it was again, I was more independent. I could talk to him about anything. I never had that, attachment to just it's all about him, or I'm gonna ask my dad or anything. Of course, I will have some problems and I'll say, you know what, let me ask my dad what he thinks about this. If I'm doing it the right way, right? If I had a problem and or an argument with someone and this happens, what do you think, Dad? Am I doing the right thing? Or with the kids, like, Dad, this is going on, what do you think? But as far as me knowing that I was his favorite, and his favorite child, the the one that made him the proudest, the one that lit up his life, and he was happy when I was around. Yeah, I knew all of that. I was his favorite
mhm,
child, but I've never been so attached to the point where I cannot function without my dad.
mm,
Now I have a cousin who really, Miss Marlene, couldn't. I don't know now because I lost touch with her, but I had a cousin who couldn't function without my uncle, without her daddy
mm.
at all. Like, everything had to be run by dad. Like, I'm gonna ask him.
Oh
Even
wow.
when she got married, he didn't like certain music, so she took that music out. And dad liked a certain type of cake, so that cake was included. And daddy liked certain arrangements, and those were included. And literally, the dress, it wasn't kind of like what her and her future husband had seen, but mostly what her dad liked.
Mm.
Yeah, it was kind of weird, that relationship, and it always felt like my auntie was, like, they were like, she was his plus one, and my auntie was just someone that had her,
Mm.
kind of like that. And it was kind of weird because since I didn't behave that way, I didn't understand what it was. But even in the marriage, everything that she was doing, she would call him 4 or 5 times a day. They lived like 10 minutes away, and she'll be there like 3 or 4 times a day. So it was kind of weird how attached she was to him. And her husband would always complain that, what's going on here? Like, I want to do this, I want to do that. But if your dad doesn't like that, then you don't do it. It's kind of weird. But yeah, I had a cousin like that. That was very, very attached
Wow.
to my uncle.
Well, I can't say I was on that level. I think it was that I wanted to be with my dad like all the time. And
Mm.
I had to learn a balance when it came to that as I got older. I had to learn a balance like, okay, you need to step away from daddy, make your own decision, do your own thing, everything will be okay. And I'm glad that I detached before my dad passed away, because I have another sibling that they were that way with my dad too, and they did not do well when my dad passed away because they depended on him for everything.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And again, I loved my dad. I'm not saying I didn't. I really did. I loved, adored my daddy. But it was more like, a nice relationship, for him, of course, because I'm special. But it was more like I wanted to, like, if I wanted to watch movies, like my siblings will be like, "Oh, let's go to the movies," blah blah. I'm like, you know what? Let me ask my dad. See, maybe he wants to tag along with us, and they'll be like, "Why? We're all going, with our dates or whatever." Yeah, but let's take dad, or let's see if dad likes that movie, or let's see, let's include him on everything that we do. Kind of like it wasn't on an everyday basis, but when we did something big, I always wanted dad to be included.
Okay.
That's where, like, that's the type of attachment that if we did something special, or if we went somewhere, I always wanted, to include my dad. Oh, let's take him, let's do this, let's do that. And sometimes, as siblings, sometimes you just want to have time with your siblings,
Mm-hmm.
right? You don't want to take your parents because then, they stump your style. You cannot do certain things because your parents are there.
See,
And,
and Miss Nexie, I didn't have that, and I think that's why I was so close to my dad, because my dad let me be like as wild and free as I wanted to. Like the music would come on, and then my dad would start dancing. So I think we were like, I don't know what you call it, like the same spirit animal, because it was like
the same species.
yeah, we were the same species, because like the music would come on and my dad would look at me, and it was like instantly at the same time we started dancing. And I miss that because it's not a lot of people that will just get you just like that. So I don't know. Me and my dad had a different relationship. We, even though he was my dad, it was more like we were more friends than daughter and
and
my
dad.
father. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I get it. No, yeah, and again, but my dad always put this, a healthy, again, this healthy space in where, you're a girl. There's certain things I cannot talk to you about or hear from you about because, it's a woman should listen to that, or give you that advice. I wanted sometimes to ask certain things, and my dad said, "Oh, no, 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 I don't think I'm the right person for that. Let me ask your sister, or let me ask your auntie to talk to you about that." Because,
Mm,
and I think that that's what I'm saying. I learned that, hey, you know what? As a grown up, you're the one who's supposed to know when to put that stop into
yeah.
going into an unhealthy type of relationship. And my cousin, to the point where my uncle will take her to, her prenatal appointments. Like her husband probably went once or twice. You know what I mean? My auntie was like non-existent in her world. It was all
Mm.
about my uncle. Like he was like, if she was gonna go somewhere and she needed someone to babysit, she'll call my uncle. Like, Dad, can you watch him? And instead of her mom.
Mm.
and it was kind of weird. And then, if she wanted to go like to a dance at the school, or to a birthday party of a friend, she will always be like, "Dad, can you take me? Or can you come with me?" Or
Oh, I don't know what happened. But hey, Flurk, how are you doing? Welcome. Flurk in the house. Shout out to everybody who's in the chat. So yeah, that's something that it's a real thing. It's something that, as parents have to pay attention to it, and also children. And just like I was telling you, Miss Nexie, I had a very toxic relationship with my dad. It was like overbearing. And people used to tell me all the time, like, why do you go to your dad about everything? And I used to think it was cute and funny until one day it was like, I couldn't function without him. And I was like, you know what? This is too much. I need to start making some of my own decisions. And when I started to do that, I felt so much better about myself that it wasn't always daddy. And Miss Nexie, I did that about a year before my dad passed away. I think I cut it off just at the right time. Are you still there, Miss Nexie? Because I don't hear you. But I'll wait for her to come back. But it was one of those things that I'm grateful that I was in the position to know when it was too much. And I think a lot of people don't know when it's too much when it comes to their parent, or vice versa, or if a child is toxic. Nobody really wants to talk about it. And I remember when my siblings and other people used to tell me that, I needed to do some growing up, which I did. I'm being honest with you. I needed to do some growing up, and I have no problem with being accountable and being mature enough to say that. I was really attached to my dad, and I didn't know how to cut that off. I didn't know how to start doing things for myself because I had been coddled for a long time. But you have to learn. You have to learn how to deal in the real world, and I'm grateful that I was able to pull back from that and start learning to do things on my own. I'm glad that I allowed myself to let my dad see me being independent before he passed away, because I think that was a concern that he had before, like, what is this girl going to do if I'm not here?
I'm sorry. I don't know what happened. I think I lost the connection, Miss Marlene. So sorry about that. But
Oh,
I,
it's no
I feel
problem.
that that's I feel that all that as parents, right, we have that that fear of what's gonna happen to my kids if I'm not around. Who are they gonna go to? Who's gonna help them? Who's gonna do whatever? But I think that some parents don't know their limits, Miss Marlene. I feel that that's what it is. They don't know that you gotta allow your kids to learn to be without you, to survive without you. I feel that sometimes we are at fault as parents when it comes to that.
Mhm. I think so too, because me being honest, I depended on my dad too much, but also I think my dad, he loved the attention that I gave him. And then when I stopped, checking on him all the time, he was like, you don't love me like you used to anymore. And it made me so sad. And I was like, Dad, I do love you. I just
I have a life.
I was like, I have
No,
my life. Because when
and
I
imagine.
I
Oh,
swear,
I'm
Miss
sorry, Miss
Nexie, I
Marley.
was with my dad 24/7 all the time. It was very unhealthy. So it was a learning period for him as well as me, that I have to have my own life. It can't just be me and my dad forever.
And imagine how a husband or a boyfriend might feel if you're constantly, oh, my dad and I, my dad and I, my dad and I, or only your dad's opinion matters to you when you're in a relationship with them. Imagine how probably insecure about the relationship they feel. And that's what I'm saying. It has to be us, the adults, the parents, that have to set those boundaries, because I love my children dearly. I do. But I know that I was a wife, as well. And I loved the relationship that we had. It was between the two of us. There was, we had our parents to love, but they weren't in the relationship with us. I feel that sometimes you do more harm than you do good when you're always solving your daughter's problems, or when you're always, in the middle of every relationship I mean, she has. You don't allow her to develop as a woman. You don't allow her to grow up as a human being. You're constantly keeping her in those childhood years. And I feel that that's unfair for the partner of your child too, of your daughter, because he's not getting the attention that he's supposed to be getting, because everything is going to the father. And a lot of fathers, are to the point where, oh, she's my baby. That's my child. So you have to make sure you treat her right. You have to make sure that she's well taken care of. You have to, and as a husband, I'm sure a lot of men feel like, I know how to treat her. It's our relationship. Like, how dare you? So we have to also think of those terms, when we're turning into this mothering type of thing.
Yeah. And that's where the problem is. I want to acknowledge Flurg in the chats.
Hey, Fleur.
Hey, Flurg, shout out to you. Thank you so much for being here. Happy Thursday. And I wanted to say this, Miss Nexie. I think it's important for there to be a conversation at a certain point in the relationship. There needs to be a conversation like, I love you, you're my child, or vice versa, you're my parent, but I'm an adult now. So if the parent doesn't know how to set that boundary, the child needs to enforce that, and back
Mm.
and forth. Like, and if a child doesn't have that, the parent needs to enforce it. But if both can't do it, one has to step up and say, this is too much. You need to have your own life. You're an adult now, and I'll be here, but you need to live your life. And you know being so dependent on one parent is not good. It's not
Yeah,
a good thing. It's very unhealthy.
it's not exactly, Miss Marlene. It's very unhealthy, and again, you're not allowing that little human being or that young human being to become their own person, because they're so used to you solving everything for them, or you being everything for them, that they have no room for anybody else, and that is unfair to that person too, and for those to come in contact with them, because I know, I know how I am and how I feel about having uh, that independent spirit, having
Hmm.
your own, being your own person. So when you are smothering a child, you're not allowing them to know who they are, what they like, what they don't like, or how to problem solve, because you're doing everything for them. It again, it goes back to, there's boundaries, as you say. We have to set them up. Like, my son can come to me, and I have seen my sons being, thinkers. They're thinking. They don't say anything. I know they're worried, right? Because you know your
Hmm.
children. And I've seen my son, pacing or throughout the day, kind of weird. And I ask, "Are you okay?" "Yeah, I'm fine." And then I say, "Okay, he'll come to me when he's ready," right? And you have to allow the space. But I've seen parents, "What's wrong? What's wrong with you? Why are you sad? What's wrong? What's wrong?
No,
Tell
no,
me,
no,
I can
Miss
help
Nexie,
you."
that's not Miss Nexie. That's not the problem. I've seen where the parent will go to the person they're with and say, "What did you do to them?"
Or to the person that did something to him, "How dare you do that to my child?"
Mm.
and try to fight that battle for them. Again, clipping their little wings to be able to solve that problem. And for me, my kids, once they're ready, my son will come to me and say, "Hey, you got a minute?" Yeah, of course I got a minute. And then he presents the problem, right? We talk it
Right.
over. And if I cannot resolve it, I say, "Hey, why don't you ask your dad?" You know? Or why
Mm-hmm.
don't you ask your sister? See what she thinks. I think the way you're looking at things are right, but why don't you ask your sister? Maybe she has another way of looking at things. Oh, yeah, yeah, you're right. Let me ask her. You know what I mean? Like, you have to not be everything for them, because if one day you're not in this world, these poor kids are lost.
Yeah.
And they go
Um,
into deep depression. They go into a lot of other things that are not good for them.
Miss Nexie, and I can tell you it's one of the reasons why I went into a very deep pit when my dad passed away, even though I had passed on from, his support, but I was so used to him having access to him that I didn't know what to do when he was gone. I was like, now what do I do? Because even though I had stopped it, it was still very new. It was only like about a year since I had stopped. So I still was trying, like, I didn't have I still had sea legs. I wasn't very stable on there. Like, I was like, I'm trying to do it on my own, but how do I do this? So
Yeah,
that's,
let me call my dad, see if he can solve this for me. Right? Let me see, like, and that is not, and that's the thing is, it's okay to have a close relationship with your parents. That's not, we're not criticizing that fact. It's actually healthy to have a very close relationship. It's when those boundaries of uh, having a close and way too close of a relationship with your parent, on where, like, my mother-in-law, one day I remember, my husband was in a mood, and I remember my mother-in-law telling me, like, calling me and say, "Hey, if you cook this and this and that when he's in that mood, and you make him this, oh, he loves it. That changes his entire mood." And I cooked it, and he was like, "Oh my God, I love this." And the entire mood changed. Those things are okay, because they're telling you how to continue a good relationship with your
mm-hmm,
spouse or your boyfriend or whoever or your friend. But when they're going straight up and saying, what, like you said, what did you do to him? Why is he in that mood?
mm-hmm,
Or, come here, son, let me help you. What's wrong? Let me comfort you. When they're doing that and the sons or daughters are already in a relationship, that is kind of weird to me, because
yeah,
you should be talking to your spouse or your significant other about what's going on with you. It shouldn't be your parent.
yep,
That that's the way I look at it.
yeah. That's how I look at it too, Miss Nexie, because I feel like everything has to have balance in it.
Hmm.
And when there's not a balance, then that's why you have problems.
Yeah, I even heard somebody say, "Why did you marry me then? Why didn't you marry your dad?"
Ooh.
I've heard that being said to someone, and it's like, you should have married your dad then. He's so awesome and blah blah blah. And you count on him so much. Then why did you marry me?
Mm.
Go marry
Wow.
your dad. Then you guys will be happily ever after. He doesn't even like me anyway. And it's like, okay, that's not right. That's unhealthy. It's okay to, have your parents to count on when you need them, but it is a total different ball game when you always need them and you're not needing, people around you. That's kind of weird.
Hmm. And I think that's something that, just like so many things in life, it takes two. So the parent could be saying, okay, this is what we're going to do and I'm going to enforce it, but also it has to be the child too being on board with it and saying, yeah, I'm doing too much. And also, if you see something is weird, like I said earlier, if you see like a mother is stepping out of bounds or a father is stepping out of bounds, there has to be like a respectful conversation. Hey, I love you and everything, but this is my family. This is my family now, and I love you and I respect you, but this is my unit now, and I need for you to only get involved if I ask.
Exactly. If I ask, but when that was my friend, the mom is she cannot even cook in her own house. His mom is the one that cooks for everybody.
Mm.
Yeah, if my friend cooks, sometimes she wants to get home and make dinner for her and her kids, and the kids have already eaten. And even though she had already phoned the mother-in-law, when I get home, I'm gonna cook something good for the kids, and she gets home and the kids have been fed. You know what I mean? Like things like that. I feel that, that's going out of bounds. Like you shouldn't do that. The household is of two, a mom and a dad, and they're supposed to make the decisions, not you as a parent.
Hmm. But it's
And
not
he says
all mom.
nothing, Miss Marlene. And he says
Yeah.
nothing. I'm sorry to say this. He says nothing. He doesn't put his mom, puts her aside and say, "Mom, she told you not to cook. Don't do that again." No, it doesn't. What he says is, "What's wrong? You should be grateful that my mom fed him. You should be grateful that my mom does all these things for us."
Mm. See, and that is the reason why it continues, because I remember when it's not a mama's girl or a dad's girl, but I remember when I was in a relationship and I came, like get being upset about what happened, and my mom was like, "No, no, no." She said, "No, no, no, go back." And he said, "You two deal with it." My mom be like, "La, la, la, la. I don't want to hear about it."
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to hear
Yep.
about it. It's like that's your relationship, and you need to go over there and work on it and fix it. And I think that more parents need to do that instead of getting involved and saying, "Oh, and they're wrong," and this, you know, there's certain things like parents have to learn to take their hands off of the steering wheel. You can't control their lives anymore, and you should always direct people to go back and work on their own relationships.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Exactly. And again, the sometimes as time goes on, children can even resent the type of parenting, especially when they lose everything that they have loved or that they love around them. Or they can resent you for always being there, or you destroy my marriage. I had a good marriage, but I was stupid enough to go along with you, and you destroy. So they can resent you as well for being too involved and not allowing them to flourish as human beings. They can resent you too. Sometimes, a little much is too much. And instead of loving the fact that you have brought them up in the way that you did, they can, hate it. They can hate you. They can resent and say, "You should have never done that for me. You should have never brought me up this way.
Yeah, exactly.
It's your fault I'm where I'm at, or it's your fault that I'm this." You have to be very careful.
Yeah, you have to be so careful. All right, somebody who I haven't seen in a long time. We go way back to probably 2009 or 10. Rico's Bizarre Foods. Hey, Rico,
Oh, wow.
welcome.
Hi, Rico.
Yeah, long time.
Long
I hope
time.
you're well. Yeah, long time. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you're well, Rico. Yeah, Rico has a thought. He says, when you become an adult, you got to keep the mother out of the way of your relationship. Also, you can add the
Yes.
dad. You can add the dad to that too. It can be the dad too.
Yep.
It can be
But
any
Miss
parent.
Marlene, not to side 100% with Rico, but I'm going to side 100% with Rico only because that's my son's namesake. No, no, but I have seen it more on moms being overbearing than dads. Because
Yeah.
again, I'm not siding, but I've just seen it more happening where moms are all over their sons' relationships. They're all, even sometimes in their daughters' relationships with their husbands. They're more like overbearing, like more controlling than I see men doing that. I've seen dads,
Mhm.
yeah, one or two, as compared to, 10 or 15 moms that
Yeah.
don't know when to let go. So, like, again, I'm not siding 100%, but I am siding 100% with that thought because, as a woman, you have been a daughter-in-law. You should know
Mhm.
that if how it feels when things don't go your way, or when your mother-in-law doesn't like you, or when your mother-in-law is involving your day-to-day life with your husband. You have to know that that doesn't feel right. So you have to be careful. But in this case, again, it has to do with the husbands too, right? If we have a mother-in-law that is like that, the husband has to be the mediator. The husband has to be the one that says, Mom, you're overdoing this. Please don't do that again. Right? This is my wife. This is my family. I love you, but I am married now. She's the woman of this house, not you. Just take it easy, relax, whatever.
Yep. Yep.
And
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. And you're right that you don't really see it a lot when it comes to dads to controlling and getting in the business. But I have seen where a father can be a problem in a relationship because
oh yeah.
the father can come in and, like, say for instance something that the husband said he definitely didn't want to do, and then the daughter or the son, because it can go both ways, goes and talks to their dad, and then the dad goes and buys the said thing that the husband said no, and we're not going to do that, and then the father goes and buys or does something,
Mm-hmm.
or takes over something for the grandkids that they both said they didn't want that. So it it can be a big problem, a very tumultuous relationship if there are not boundaries enforced. You
Mm-hmm.
have to set that boundary, and if you
Yeah,
don't, it's going to be a problem.
it is. It is. And again, we can love our parents. That's not what we're not saying here, don't love them, right? We're not saying here, don't talk to them, abandon them. No, what we're saying here is that if you are an individual in a relationship and you have an overbearing parent, because we all know it, if it's an overbearing parent, because sometimes they drive us
Mm-hmm.
crazy. If you have someone like that, your job is to protect your partner. That's your job. And put your parents in the place where they belong and say, hey, I'm a grown up now. I'm an adult. This is my partner. You have to respect them. You have your
Mm-hmm.
place. She has her place in my heart, or he has his place in my heart. You just have to respect. So it's
Yeah.
up to you to say something to your parent. Talk to them and say, hey, don't overdo it. Because,
You know,
yeah, go
Miss
on, Miss
Nixie,
Marlene.
Miss Nixie, I feel like the problem is when it gets to the point where you feel like you have to choose. I think that's the biggest problem, is when you feel like you have to choose. Like, you can't have both in your life. Like, one will be like so overbearing that, oh, then you choose your wife. Then that one parent will, like, not have nothing to do with them anymore. And I've seen the opposite when a child acts that way, and then the other one cuts the other one off. So it's a lot of strange and weird things that happen. But I mean, in a mature relationships where you can talk about things, and you say everything because people have feelings. So
Yeah.
you always would want to say, I appreciate you, I love you, but I'm an adult now, and this is my spouse, or this is my boyfriend or girlfriend, or these are my children, and this is how we do things in this house.
And you don't have to be disrespectful. And that's what I'm saying, Miss Marlene. We have this medium here with you. We can talk about topics that sometimes are uncomfortable to talk about, right? As we're doing right now. But you have to bring these conversations on, because there is a way where you can tell your parent, I love you, mom, or I love you, dad, but you're not helping. You don't have to disrespect them. You don't have to. You can talk to them as nice as you can. If it continues and you see no change, then distance yourself from them. Distance helps people in many, many ways.
Yeah, I
Sometimes
believe
it
that.
makes us see things clearly as people distance themselves from us. We're like, oh my God, I was overdoing that. You're right. I'm sorry. I didn't see it. I thought you were the problem. But, so you have to talk to your parents in the best way possible. And, make sure that you don't neglect your wife, your husband, your significant other because of a parent, and that you don't neglect your parents because of a significant other. There has to be a balance. But when it
Yeah,
comes to a couple, the decisions for a child or as a couple is exactly that, a couple. It's nothing to do with your parents.
right. But also I've seen when it's very off balanced if the spouse or boyfriend or girlfriend doesn't like the parent, and they will want to keep the children away from that parent, and it brings about problems, but it has to be that child's setting the standard. Okay,
Exactly.
this is my mother. You're not going to touch
Yeah.
my mother, or this is my
Oh, you don't have
father.
to like her, but you don't have to disrespect her either.
Right.
You have to respect. Yeah, I've seen cases like that where I don't like your mom, and therefore, I don't like you to go over there. It has nothing to do with you. It's not a matter of you liking. This is my mom. I'm gonna go visit her as often as I can without afflicting our relationship. But you cannot stop me from going to visit my parents. So it's
Yeah.
up to you, the person, right, Miss Marlene, to
Mm-hmm.
set those boundaries, to bring the balance into a relationship. But you cannot tilt it one way or another. It has to be balanced, equally balanced.
Yep. And I like what Rico was saying here. You got to stop going to your parents and talking about your relationship. And I
Yep.
and my mom told me that she shut that down a long time ago. She was like, "No, no, no." She's like, "I don't even want to hear about it," because when you start hearing things that's happening, naturally as a parent, you're going to be like, you want to protect your child, but when they're adults, you have to let them deal with, okay, that's going on between you two. You two need to work it out. I can't get involved in that. And that's how it has to be.
Yeah, exactly. And again, it's a matter of respect. And sometimes you're gonna have issues with in-laws. Yeah, they're not made out of gold. If my in-laws were made out of gold, I would love every single one of them. I'm serious. Every single one. Oh, I will. Oh God, I will have them in a pedestal. But they're not made out of gold. We're gonna have different mentalities, different issues, different goals. It doesn't matter. The thing is that respect is needed
Mhm.
and balance is necessary. Now,
Yeah.
with our kids, my mom, it's a little bit on the I want to put my two little cents into what's going on. And
Mhm.
I had to talk to her and say, no, 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 these are not your children. They're mine and my husband's. I claim them all the time. I allow him to claim them once in a while. But, they're my children. So what I'm going to do with them or not do with them, or how I'm going to discipline them or not, is up to me and my husband and their dad. It has nothing to
Mhm.
do with you. Yeah, but you're allowed again. No. And I had to say that several times, and she finally got it. That no, your input is not necessary, it's not needed unless I ask you for it. If I'm not
Mhm.
asking, don't give it to me. I'm not asking you.
Mhm.
You're my mom, I love you, but these are my children. I'll raise them the way I think is best for them because I know their personalities.
Mhm.
Not, so, sometimes you have to do that. You don't have to disrespect them. They might get upset with you, but as time goes on, they're gonna realize that, hey, you know what? She's right. Those are her kids, not mine.
Yeah. And I like what Rico just said in the chat. This is important. Grandparents need to understand. Stop telling your grandkids about your mama and your daddy.
Yes.
Like
So true.
whatever they did, and they were this, and they're lazy, and they're no good. Or if you have
Hmm.
issues, it's certain things, like when you're an adult, you have to have adult to adult conversations. Don't put things in your grandkids' head. And also, don't talk about your parents, their grandparents. Oh, they did this to me, and they did. You have to let them have their own relationship and come to their own
Yes.
conclusion. That's something,
That's the one.
it took me years in
So
therapy to
important.
get to that.
Yeah, my father taught us that since we were young. My dad always said, whatever it is, the issues you have with so and so, it has nothing to do with anybody else. Do not poison their minds. Allow people to have the relationship they're going to have with each other without putting your two little cents in. And it's true. And I say the same thing to my daughters, my sons. Your significant other, that's, between you and him or you and her, has nothing to do with your dad or me. So don't tell me anything negative. Let me get to know this person. I said, and don't go over there and talk to them negatively about either me or your dad. Allow them to come over and have a relationship with us and see if the problem is you or us.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's more them. It's not me because I'm perfect. My daddy always said so.
Yeah. My dad always said they broke the mold when they made me. I'm just saying, you know,
Yeah, my sister
can't
and my
help
sister.
it.
What my dad used to say that, and my sister would say, "Thank God," because I could have handled two of them, two of them Nexies. Yeah, so yeah, I'm glad that they broke that mold.
That's just what it is. You can't help it. It's jealousy. Not everybody can
Yeah,
be us, Miss Nexie.
not everybody can be
That's
as
just what
perfect
it
as
is.
us.
I
Yeah, they
know.
can't.
I'm
They're
just
just
saying.
jealous.
I'm
Okay,
just
one
saying.
dimensional now.
But
Oh,
but in all seriousness, this topic, talking about, your daddy's girls and mama's boys, all of it, and to be 100% serious and to bring this to a conclusion, I think it's important for us to say that it's important for boundaries to be in place, for there to be some things put in place, that there's certain things we're not going to do, and it has to go back and forth. And if it can't be, sometimes unfortunately you're going to have to take a break from certain individuals because respect is necessary, and it's not something that is automatically earned.
true. Could have not said that any better, Miss Marlene. But again, I love my kids equally, all of them. I love them dearly. There is going to be different relationships with each one of them because they all have different personalities, right? But the one thing that I always make sure that I taught them is to think for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we love them. Yes, you can love them, but the best thing you can do for any child is to allow them to grow at their own pace. Don't overdo your motherhood or your fatherhood. Allow them to be, their own person. Don't overshadow their growth. Don't stunt on their growth. And I think that when we become daddy's little, when they become our little thing, our little person, we stop them from being, their unique selves. They have to count on us for everything. They cannot do anything on their own. So I think that for me, it was always important that my children were their own little person. I loved
Yeah.
them. I was their parent,
Hmm.
but I was not gonna over parent.
Yes. Yes. And I love that. I love that. So, Miss Nexie, thank you so much. Another amazing sip and chat this week. I really appreciate you.
I really appreciate you having me on, Miss Marlene. And can you believe what a year and what 3 months now?
Let's see.
Yeah.
This is episode 59.
Oh
So
my
50. Yeah, this is 59. So 50, how much? 52 weeks is a
God.
year. So we're 7 weeks. 7
Yeah,
weeks past a year. So,
yeah. My goodness. Thank you for having me, putting up with me this long. And thank you everyone for coming over to support Miss Marlene. And I hope you guys enjoy our sip and chats.
yes, I thank you guys so much. If you're new here, as always, make sure that you subscribe, you hit the like, leave a comment, and we do have a playlist of so many sip and chats. If you enjoyed this one, I'm sure you will enjoy other episodes. Yes.
Our first ones, they were hilarious. But
Yeah,
yes, thank you for
the
having me.
first ones, I mean, we were so raw. Oh my God, we were so raw. We
I
still
was
are
listening to
raw.
a few of them. I was like, what were we talking about? But anyway, no, if you guys enjoy it, Miss Marlene is right. There is playlists and there's playlists on all of her channels. So, go ahead and play them lists and give Miss Marlene some support because she is amazing. Thank you
Thank
for
you so
having me,
much.
Miss Marlene.
Thank you so much. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you guys back next week.
Next week. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, Miss Marlene.
Bye.